Welcome to Sail Lifestyles. If you're new here, you're in the right place. And to all our returning viewers, thank you for being part of this journey. We've got an exciting episode for you today, and trust me, you won't want to miss a second of it. So sit back, relax, and let's dive right in.
The morning sun glared across the harbor, throwing long, golden streaks across the rippling sea. A convoy of sleek black cars rolled toward the cruise terminal, engines humming like a royal procession. Security guards stepped out first, their earpieces flashing as they scanned the waiting crowd. Then came assistants, juggling leather briefcases and multiple phones. And finally, he emerged. Daniel Harcourt, a man whose very presence bent conversations and silenced rooms. A billionaire whose empire spanned continents, whose name was etched on hospitals, universities, and foundations that fed thousands. A man accustomed to stepping through doors that were closed to everyone else. But that morning, the wealth that had once opened every gate would prove powerless against the sliding glass doors of a cruise terminal. Inside the building, whispers spread before the crowd even saw him. Employees shifted nervously as cameras and phones tilted upward, capturing every second. For passengers waiting in line, this was no ordinary morning. Something unusual was about to unfold. And then it did. When Harcourt presented his documents, staff hesitated. Their eyes flickered across computer screens, their voices muttered over radios. Minutes stretched into humiliation.
Sir, I'm afraid we cannot allow you to board.
A silence fell so deep it cut through the noise of rolling suitcases and boarding calls. The billionaire stood frozen. His security glanced at one another, unsure whether to push forward or retreat. Phones rose higher into the air, recording every instant for the world beyond those glass walls. And in that moment, Daniel Harcourt, the man who owned fleets, towers, and headlines, was not a master of empires. He was simply another passenger, denied at the gate. What no one realized was that this single denial would spark one of the most controversial corporate scandals the cruise industry had ever faced. A chain of events marked by humiliation, betrayal, conspiracy, and the question that would haunt everyone who touched the story. Was it a mistake or a calculated act of revenge? To understand the magnitude of that morning, you must first understand the man who lived it. Daniel Harcourt was not born into wealth. He clawed his way up from the very edges of society. Raised in a crumbling neighborhood where broken glass littered the sidewalks and opportunity felt like a foreign word, his childhood was far from privileged. His mother worked 2 jobs. His father, a dock worker, died in an accident when Daniel was just 12 years old. That early loss left scars. Harcourt often spoke of the day he stood at the water's edge, watching cargo ships drift across the horizon, whispering to himself, "One day I won't just work on ships, I'll own them." By 30, he had kept that promise. Real estate deals in neglected districts turned into gleaming skyscrapers. Strategic shipping investments expanded into global cargo fleets. Technology startups cemented his fortune. His empire stretched across luxury hotels, energy, ports, and trade routes. By 50, Harcourt was worth $23 billion. But Harcourt was more than a businessman. He was an image. He cut ribbons at orphanages. He shook hands with presidents. He appeared on glossy magazine covers, his steel gray hair and tailored suits embodying the dream of success. Admirers saw a philanthropist. Rivals saw a predator. Both were correct. His relationship with the cruise industry was deep and personal. Years earlier, Harcourt had poured millions into Oceanis Voyages, one of the most prestigious cruise lines on Earth. He wasn't just an investor. He was a patron, a partner, a man who believed in the romance of luxury at sea. He had sponsored suites that bore his foundation's name and hosted high-profile charity galas aboard their ships. Whispers in boardrooms even suggested he was being prepared for a directorship, a seat at the very table where Oceanis charted its course into the future. And so, when Oceanis launched their crown jewel, the Aurelia, a state-of-the-art luxury vessel, they naturally invited Harcourt. For him, this was more than leisure. It was legacy. The maiden voyage of the Aurelia was a historic crossing, meant to celebrate the ship's grandeur with celebrities, diplomats, and investors. Tickets were not purchased, they were bestowed. Invitations were a badge of honor. For Harcourt, attending was symbolic. He arrived not only with his family but with his advisors and a discreet film crew, ready to document what he believed would be a milestone in his career. Yet, destiny had something else in store. Because instead of stepping onto the Aurelia's marble atrium, greeted with champagne and applause, Daniel Harcourt found himself stranded on the asphalt outside, rejected by the very company he had helped to finance. The world's cameras had captured the unthinkable, and the questions spread like wildfire. Why was a billionaire denied boarding on a ship he partly owned? Eyewitnesses recall the moment vividly. The terminal's atmosphere, once casual, shifted to a charged silence. Staff whispered frantically. Supervisors arrived, speaking into radios with nervous urgency. The billionaire's passport was checked, rechecked, then confiscated momentarily before being returned. His boarding pass was scanned, but the machine flashed red. Passengers in line began recording on their phones.
Documentation irregularities, a compliance issue, a system error.
But the tone of the staff betrayed something more. They were not confident. They were fearful. Harcourt's security detail urged him to step aside and wait, but Harcourt refused.
Is this a mistake, or am I being singled out?
The staff avoided his gaze. Within minutes, local port authorities appeared. Passengers murmured. Social media posts exploded. Billionaire stopped from boarding Aurelia. #Cruisegate. Some claimed there was a passport discrepancy. Others whispered of an unpaid financial dispute. A few alleged darker motives, a feud with a powerful rival or political pressure. But no matter the reason, the result was the same.
Sir, I'm afraid we cannot allow you to board.
The scene was humiliating. For a man accustomed to control, to authority, to obedience, the denial was devastating. Within hours, the incident was on global news feeds. Clips circulated across every platform, analyzed frame by frame. Anchors speculated. Experts debated. Why had this happened? And more importantly, who had given the order? Because one thing was clear. Cruise line staff do not deny billionaires on their own. The fallout was immediate. Videos of Harcourt's denial went viral, amassing millions of views in hours. Memes mocked him. Too rich to cruise, money can't buy entry. But beyond the jokes, the consequences were severe. Oceanis Voyages faced a public relations nightmare. Their phones rang non-stop with reporters demanding explanations. Within 24 hours, the company released a statement. Oceanis Voyages is committed to the highest standards of compliance and passenger security. In rare circumstances, discrepancies may arise that prevent embarkation. While we regret the inconvenience caused to Mr. Harcourt, we acted in accordance with international regulations. The statement fueled, rather than quenched, speculation. What regulations? What discrepancies? Inside Oceanis headquarters, panic brewed. Board members clashed behind closed doors. Some demanded an apology to Harcourt. Others argued that enforcing rules, even against billionaires, proved integrity. A few whispered that this wasn't an accident at all. Meanwhile, Harcourt's empire reeled. Stock prices dipped as investors feared scandal. Rumors spread of legal battles. Within his family, tensions ran high. His children had witnessed the humiliation firsthand. Harcourt himself remained silent publicly, but privately his lawyers mobilized. His advisors drafted statements, and his enemies celebrated. Weeks later, new evidence surfaced. A whistleblower leaked emails from within Oceanis. The correspondence suggested that Harcourt's denial was not spontaneous. It had been discussed days in advance. One message read, "If Harcourt attempts boarding, Protocol Alpha applies. Do not escalate on site. Await instructions." Another, "Risk is worth exposure. The optics will be damaging." The implications were staggering. Was this a clerical error or a calculated strike? Suspicions pointed in multiple directions. Rival billionaires, threatened by Harcourt's growing influence in shipping. Political figures, eager to punish him for his outspoken criticism of trade policies. Even Oceanis board members, who may have feared Harcourt's impending takeover. Theories flourished. Analysts debated motives. Journalists traced financial links. Some concluded it was corporate warfare, an intentional act to weaken Harcourt's public standing. And yet one haunting truth remained. For the first time in his career, Daniel Harcourt's wealth had failed him. Oceanis eventually issued a formal apology. Lower-level staff were suspended. The CEO expressed deep regret over the incident, but Harcourt was not appeased. He sued the company for defamation and damages, demanding billions. He accused rivals of conspiring against him. Behind closed doors, sources claim he began drawing up plans to launch his own luxury cruise fleet, a direct competitor designed to destroy Oceanis. But Harcourt also knew revenge was costly. An open war could jeopardize his empire. And so, in public, he delivered a statement filled with dignity but edged with steel.
What happened to me could happen to anyone. Wealth does not shield us from injustice, but make no mistake, I will ensure accountability, and I will not be silenced.
The world waited. Would he forgive? Would he retaliate? Rumors persist to this day that Harcourt is still plotting, quietly acquiring shipyards, designing vessels meant to eclipse the Aurelia itself. Others believe he has chosen peace, pouring his energy back into philanthropy. But one lesson remains carved into the waves of that morning. At sea, wealth is not enough. The tides of power can turn against anyone, even a billionaire. The story of Daniel Harcourt's denial is not just about one man. It is about pride, power, and the fragile illusion of control. It is about how even empires can be shaken in the space of a single boarding call. And as long as whispers of conspiracy echo in boardrooms and docksides alike, the question remains unanswered. Was it a mistake, or was it revenge? One thing is certain. On the ocean, as in life, no throne is truly safe. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with friends who'll love it too. And remember, we have plenty more videos waiting for you here on the channel, so check them out next. Until then, stay tuned and I'll see you in the next one.